People look at the Berkshire Hathaway empire today, and what they notice are the enormous numbers. They see hundreds of billions of dollars, the giant acquisitions, the steady compounding returns, and the headlines that appear in financial newspapers around the world. When they examine my life story, they are almost always searching for the dramatic moment. They want to know about the one brilliant day when I placed a massive, high-risk trade that instantly turned me into a billionaire. In their minds, wealth must come from a dramatic breakthrough. They picture a Hollywood-style scene where a group of traders are shouting in a room filled with flashing monitors, executing some secret master plan at the perfect second to outsmart the market. But I will tell you something that many people are uncomfortable hearing. That dramatic Hollywood image of wealth creation is nothing more than a fantasy. Real prosperity almost never happens in a single moment of genius. Genuine wealth is built slowly, quietly, and in ways that are often extremely boring. In fact, the process can feel almost painfully ordinary. If you truly want to understand how financial empires are formed and how they collapse, you must study the same principles that govern the natural world. Think about how most people imagine a house being destroyed. When people picture a home collapsing, they usually imagine a violent hurricane. They visualize a powerful storm roaring in from the ocean, ripping the roof off the building in seconds. In the world of finance, the hurricane represents a catastrophic stock market crash, a disastrous property investment, or a huge gamble on a startup that eventually becomes worthless. These are the dramatic disasters that everyone fears. However, hurricanes are rare events. The truth is that most homes are not destroyed by storms at all. The more common threat is something almost invisible: termites. Termites do not arrive with noise or warning. They hide in the darkness and slowly chew through the wooden structure of a house day after day, hour after hour. Each tiny bite is so small that it seems meaningless. For years, the house appears perfectly fine from the outside, yet inside the foundation is being quietly eaten away. Eventually, the damage becomes so severe that the entire structure collapses under its own weight. Your daily behavior functions exactly like those termites in your financial life. Most individuals do not struggle financially because of one massive economic disaster. Instead, their resources are gradually consumed by hundreds of small negative habits that slowly drain their money and attention every single day. Buying an expensive coffee you do not truly need, spending hours scrolling through social media without purpose, constantly purchasing things just to impress neighbors who barely notice you. Each of these actions feels insignificant in the moment. Yet when these tiny behaviors repeat themselves for 10, 20, or 30 years, the long-term effect is devastating. They quietly guarantee a lifetime of financial pressure. But there is a powerful truth hidden within this same principle. The exact same force that destroys wealth can also build it. Just as negative habits can eat away at your foundation, positive habits can slowly construct an incredibly strong structure. You can create what I like to think of as positive termites. Small, nearly invisible behaviors that steadily reinforce your financial base until it becomes an unbreakable fortress. Over the past 70 years, I did not achieve success by making thousands of brilliant predictions about the global economy. I did not invent revolutionary technology. My approach was far simpler. I followed a handful of small habits consistently every single day. These routines were not glamorous. They did not make me appear impressive or fashionable. In fact, many people on Wall Street considered them old-fashioned and strange. Yet I repeated them on Monday, on Tuesday, and on every day that followed for decades. Eventually, those tiny actions compounded into an enormous mountain of wealth that no economic crisis could easily destroy. Today, I want to share several of those simple routines with you. Before I explain them, however, I must warn you about something. When you hear these ideas, your ego may immediately dismiss them. Your mind will try to convince you that these behaviors are too small to have any meaningful impact. Your brain will crave a more exciting strategy filled with risk and complexity. That impulse is natural, but it is also dangerous. If you truly want to build lasting prosperity, you must ignore that voice. Many people spend their entire lives waiting for a magical breakthrough, a winning lottery ticket, a perfect investment tip, or a single huge opportunity that changes everything. But wealth rarely works that way. The real path to financial independence is built through steady discipline and intelligent habits repeated over long periods of time. One of the most important habits I developed involves something I call the physical expression of intellectual humility. In simpler terms, it is the practice of admitting when something is too complicated to understand. Human beings, particularly highly educated individuals, often struggle with this idea. When someone spends years in prestigious universities solving complex academic problems, they naturally begin to associate difficulty with intelligence. During their education, they are often rewarded for producing sophisticated theories and complicated explanations. Simplicity, by contrast, can appear unimpressive. Because of this conditioning, many talented graduates enter industries like finance or technology, believing that the most complicated problems must hold the greatest rewards. When they encounter a straightforward business, perhaps a company that manufactures bricks, sells candy, or produces carpet, their ego dismisses it immediately. It seems too simple, too ordinary, too easy for someone with their level of education. Instead, they begin chasing extremely complex ventures. They search for advanced biotechnology startups, complicated financial instruments, or investment structures that require advanced mathematics just to understand. They deliberately seek enormous obstacles because overcoming them feels impressive. But the economic world does not reward difficulty for its own sake. The market does not hand out extra points for choosing a complicated challenge. A dollar earned from a simple and predictable business has the exact same value as a dollar earned from an extremely complex innovation. In my office in Omaha, I keep a simple wooden tray on my desk. The label on that tray says, "Too hard." Every morning I receive numerous investment proposals, company reports, and business ideas from around the world. I pick up the first document and begin reading. If within a few minutes I cannot clearly understand how the company makes money, who their competitors are, and what their industry might look like in the future, I stop immediately. I do not call analysts to explain it. I do not build complicated spreadsheets to analyze it further. I simply place the document into the tray marked "Too hard," and then I move on. This small physical action protects me from my own ego. It forces me to remain within what I call my circle of competence. The exact size of that circle is not nearly as important as knowing where its boundaries are located. Many people are afraid to admit they do not understand something. When asked about a complicated technology or investment trend, they often pretend to know the answer. They use technical language to hide their uncertainty. Yet the people who create lasting wealth are those who have the confidence to say, "I do not understand this, so I will pass." Another powerful routine I have followed for decades may sound even more ordinary. Modern investors often believe they must constantly monitor the markets. They sit in front of multiple screens watching numbers move every second. They refresh news feeds, scroll through social media, and listen to commentators predicting the next crisis. They believe this constant flow of information makes them smarter. In reality, it usually accomplishes the opposite. Most of the information circulating online has a very short lifespan. News stories that seem urgent today will be forgotten tomorrow. Rumors about stocks lose value within days. Consuming endless, temporary information simply exhausts your attention. There is a different category of knowledge that lasts much longer. Lessons about human behavior, business history, economic cycles, and the timeless laws of supply and demand remain relevant for decades or even centuries. When you fill your mind with information that endures, the benefits accumulate over time. Visitors who come to my office are often surprised by what they see. There are no televisions broadcasting financial news. There are no flashing screens displaying stock prices. The room is quiet and filled mostly with books. My daily routine has been remarkably simple. I spend a large portion of each day reading. Annual reports, biographies, historical studies, and business analysis fill my schedule. People often misunderstand how reading contributes to success. They imagine that learning a fact should immediately produce profit. But knowledge rarely works that way. Instead, it builds slowly, almost invisibly. You may read an 80-page report about a company today and see no immediate benefit. Years later, however, when a new opportunity appears, your brain may recognize a pattern that others miss. The connection may happen instantly, but it is the result of decades of accumulated learning. This is how an intellectual advantage is created. It forms gradually, page by page, year after year. Many people lack the patience for such a process. They want shortcuts and instant expertise. Yet real progress is not created through intensity alone. Consistency is the force that produces meaningful results. While traders in major financial centers are rushing to react to the latest headline, I often find myself quietly reading history or studying businesses that existed long before modern markets. Those quiet hours may appear uneventful, but over long stretches of time, they build the understanding necessary to make better decisions when opportunities eventually appear. You must make a ruthless break from the relentless stream of modern distractions. Step away from the constant noise that demands your attention every minute of the day. Stop refreshing your investment portfolio again and again as if checking it will somehow change the outcome. Stop drowning yourself in the never-ending flood of financial headlines that are designed to provoke emotion rather than build wisdom. Instead, gather all the nervous energy you normally waste on those habits and direct it towards something that compounds far more powerfully: permanent knowledge. Dedicate a single uninterrupted hour every day to learning something that has absolutely nothing to do with the day's market chatter. Choose a biography about a legendary entrepreneur who built something that lasted. Explore a book that explains the depths of human behavior and the psychology behind decision-making. Do this quietly and privately. There is no need to announce it to the world or broadcast it across social media. Simply sit in silence and allow your mind to absorb ideas that will slowly multiply in value over time. If you follow this routine faithfully, 5 years from now you will notice something extraordinary. When you look around the room, you will realize that your way of thinking operates on a completely different level from most people around you. Patterns that remain invisible to others will suddenly appear obvious to you. While the majority of people continue arguing about daily noise, you will be able to recognize the deeper structure behind it all. The third discipline I want to describe could be called the ability to command the quiet room, or in other words, the rejection of the urge to act simply for the sake of acting. Observe how the typical professional lives today. Silence makes them uncomfortable. The idea of sitting quietly with their thoughts feels unbearable to them. If you place the average individual inside a bare room with nothing to occupy them, it takes only a few moments before their hand instinctively reaches for the glowing screen in their pocket. They crave stimulation the way a thirsty traveler craves water. Within the study of behavioral psychology, this tendency has a specific label known as action bias. When human beings feel nervous, uncertain, or bored, their ancient survival instincts push them toward movement. The brain insists that doing something, anything, must surely be better than remaining still. Imagine a person watching their investment portfolio decline by 5%. Immediately, a rush of adrenaline floods their system. Their impulse tells them to take action right away. They might sell their holdings, jump into another stock, or completely overhaul their financial plan. In that moment, they convince themselves that movement will somehow protect them from loss. This illusion of necessary motion forms the foundation of much of the corporate environment. In many offices, if an employee sits quietly thinking about a difficult problem, a manager passing by may assume that person is being unproductive. They expect to see constant typing, constant meetings, constant visible activity. Society often rewards the appearance of business, even when that activity produces little real value. Rarely does it celebrate the slow process of deep thinking that actually leads to meaningful breakthroughs. The financial industry thrives on this same human weakness. The entire system is structured in such a way that you feel compelled to make frequent moves. Brokerage firms, trading applications, and television commentators earn their income when you take action. They benefit every time you buy, sell, react, or panic. Each trade produces fees, taxes, and commissions that quietly drain your resources while enriching the institutions encouraging the activity. The philosophy that Charlie and I follow stands in sharp contrast to this culture of constant motion. In the pursuit of wealth, remaining inactive at the right moment can often be the most intelligent choice available. The small habit I practice illustrates this idea in a simple yet challenging way. A large portion of my working hours is spent sitting in a quiet space doing nothing except thinking. Sometimes I stare at the ceiling. Sometimes I examine a blank yellow notepad with no intention of writing immediately. There is no laptop buzzing with notifications beside me. There is no ringing telephone demanding my attention. There are no complicated spreadsheets flashing numbers across a screen. I simply sit with my thoughts and allow them to develop at their natural pace. I never force an investment opportunity merely to feel productive. If the correct opportunity does not appear, I am completely comfortable holding billions of dollars in cash while waiting patiently. From time to time, journalists criticize this approach. Articles appear suggesting that I have become outdated or that I no longer understand the rapidly changing economy. Commentators claim that new technologies have left my thinking behind. Yet I never allow the impatience of the crowd to set my schedule. I prefer to imagine my strategy in the form of a crocodile resting beside a riverbank. A crocodile does not waste energy chasing every small fish swimming past its nose. If it behaved that way, it would quickly grow tired and eventually starve. Instead, the crocodile lies nearly motionless beneath the water, conserving strength while it waits. Days may pass. Sometimes weeks pass. During that time, the animal barely moves at all. But eventually, a large zebra wanders down to drink from the river. At that precise moment, the crocodile explodes into action with incredible speed and certainty. One perfectly timed strike provides the nourishment it needs. Your money and your career deserve to be handled with the same patience. Success does not require you to make dozens of financial decisions every year. It does not require you to constantly redesign your business model or chase every trendy side project that captures public attention. If you cannot tolerate being alone with your own thoughts, you will struggle to hold a truly great investment during the frightening moments when markets collapse. Fear will push you to act prematurely, and that impulsive decision will erase the wealth that patience could have created. For this reason, I encourage you to practice deliberate stillness. Sometime during the coming week, locate a quiet room where you will not be disturbed. Leave your phone outside the door. Turn off the music and any other distractions. Bring with you only a blank sheet of paper and a pen. Sit down and remain there for 30 minutes without performing any task at all. Your mind will protest. It will insist that you are wasting valuable time. It may invent urgent problems that supposedly require your immediate attention. Resist those impulses. Stay seated and allow the discomfort to pass. Through this exercise, you are training your mind to tolerate calmness rather than constant stimulation. Once you develop that ability, the chaotic anxiety of the crowd will lose its power over you. You will become like the crocodile, calm, patient, and ready to act only when the opportunity truly deserves it. The fourth principle could be described as a daily reminder to respect capital, though I sometimes illustrate it through what I jokingly call the McDonald's breakfast example. Consider what typically happens when someone receives a raise or a promotion. The moment their income increases, their spending expands right alongside it. They move into a bigger house. They sign a lease for an expensive European car. They begin wearing luxury accessories and dining at restaurants that charge far more than necessary. People often justify this by saying they are enjoying the rewards of their hard work. From their perspective, they are upgrading their lifestyle. But in reality, they are quietly building a financial cage around themselves. With every new purchase, they tighten a set of golden handcuffs that restrict their freedom. Expensive possessions carry hidden psychological costs. Owning a large house means more than simply paying the mortgage. It requires attention, maintenance, repairs, and constant worry about taxes or structural problems. Purchasing a luxury vehicle brings anxiety about scratches, insurance, and depreciation. Over time, the items you believed would serve you begin to demand your time and mental energy instead. In finance, we refer to this creeping expansion of expenses as lifestyle inflation. It gradually ensures that no matter how much income a person earns, their obligations grow at the same pace. As a result, they remain dependent on their paycheck forever, unable to leave an unpleasant job because their spending commitments demand constant cash flow. My own routine follows a very different pattern. I maintain a small habit that reminds me daily of the true value of money. On most mornings during the short drive to my office, I pass through the McDonald's drive-through. Before leaving home, I tell my wife exactly how much loose change to place in the cup holder of the car. When the market has been rough and I feel less prosperous, I limit my order to a pair of sausage patties costing only a couple of dollars. On days when business feels particularly good, I may allow myself the slightly more expensive bacon, egg, and cheese biscuit. People often hear this story and chuckle. They assume it is simply the quirky behavior of an older billionaire who enjoys being frugal. However, the lesson behind it has nothing to do with stinginess. It reflects a deep respect for the power of capital. Once you fully grasp how compound growth operates, your perspective on money changes dramatically. A single dollar stops being just paper or metal. Instead, it becomes a worker assigned to serve your future. Every dollar you save becomes a small employee sent out to labor within the economy on your behalf. These employees work continuously without rest. They generate additional employees who then join the effort. When you spend $10 on something unnecessary, such as an overpriced coffee, you are not merely giving up $10 today. You are eliminating the far greater sum that money could have multiplied into over the next 2 decades. I continue living in the same modest home that I purchased many decades ago. It cost $1,500 when I first bought it in the late 1950s. Owning a gigantic mansion with dozens of rooms would not make me wiser or more capable as an investor. It would simply demand additional maintenance, additional attention, and countless trivial decisions that serve no meaningful purpose. My simple breakfast routine acts as a daily mental reset. It reminds me that I control my money rather than allowing money to control me. Each morning it reinforces the idea that financial independence comes not from displaying wealth, but from respecting every resource that has the potential to grow. I sat down with myself and made sure my pride stayed under strict control, because I constantly remind myself that the real objective is not to appear affluent in front of others, but to truly become financially strong. With that idea firmly in mind, here is the task connected to habit number 4. You must learn to aggressively lock down your lifestyle. The next time you receive a salary increase, a generous bonus, or your business experiences an unusually profitable month, I want you to behave in a way that feels almost unnatural in today's world. Do absolutely nothing with that extra money that improves your visible lifestyle. Do not rush out to purchase a new vehicle. Do not suddenly begin replacing your clothing with expensive brands. Do not celebrate by booking a lavish vacation somewhere exotic. Instead, take every single dollar of that additional surplus and instantly transform it into lasting capital. Acquire an asset. Convert temporary income into something permanent. Allow the people around you to assume that you are struggling financially. Let your friends question why your car looks older than theirs, or why you still live the same way you did before your income increased. If you can keep your ego under control and continue living modestly while your earnings are quietly climbing higher and higher, you will construct a financial fortress so strong that almost nothing will be able to break it. Wealth will accumulate around you far faster than you once believed possible. And what you will truly be purchasing is not luxury, but freedom itself. Now, let us move into habit number 5, which I call the nightly evaluation of the internal scorecard, or in simpler terms, the complete refusal to depend on outside approval. Take a moment and observe how most people behave in the modern world. The majority of individuals are intensely fixated on the opinions of others. Their entire decision-making process revolves around how their actions will appear to the people around them. They select college majors based on what will satisfy their parents rather than what genuinely interests them. They choose clothing, vehicles, and even houses based on what will make their coworkers admire them. Many people even accumulate enormous credit card balances simply to pay for luxury vacations, so they can upload photographs online and receive approval from strangers they have never even met. Psychologists describe this behavior as living according to the outer scorecard. It is a miserable and draining way to move through life. When your sense of value depends entirely on the applause of other people, your emotional stability becomes extremely fragile because the crowd is unpredictable and inconsistent. The same audience that praises you today may criticize you tomorrow. The moment the applause stops, you begin to feel empty and worthless. This weakness of the mind has destroyed more wealth than any financial crash ever recorded. People ruin themselves financially because their pride cannot tolerate the possibility of appearing poor in front of others. They refuse to move to a smaller home after losing a job because they are terrified that their neighbors might gossip about them. They continue holding terrible investments for years simply because admitting a mistake would damage their pride. They waste the capital they work so hard to earn just to maintain an illusion for other people. My longtime partner Charlie and I recognized very early that if we wanted to build an investment machine capable of compounding wealth for decades, we had to disconnect ourselves completely from society's opinions. I eventually developed a small mental practice that I perform every night before falling asleep. I sit quietly, close my eyes, and ask myself one simple but powerful question. If nobody on earth ever discovered the choices I made today, would I still feel satisfied with them? Imagine the world believed I was foolish for buying a certain company, but I knew that the numbers and the mathematics behind the decision were correct, would I still make that investment? If the honest answer inside my mind is no, then I immediately know that my ego has taken control. That means I am trying to impress the audience rather than make a rational decision. You must learn to build what I call an internal scorecard. An internal scorecard means that your personal standards are determined by your own values rather than by the expectations of society. It means you act with integrity, even when absolutely nobody is watching you. You save your money quietly without announcing it to anyone. You read and educate yourself without seeking attention. You construct your financial empire silently while the world remains unaware. Think back to the late 1990s as a perfect illustration of this principle. At that time, the entire planet seemed to lose its collective mind over internet companies. Businesses that generated no revenue and no profits were suddenly valued at billions of dollars overnight. Financial commentators appeared on television daily and mocked me relentlessly. They described me as outdated and irrelevant. They claimed the internet had permanently changed the laws of economics and that my conservative style of investing no longer worked. If my emotional well-being had depended on public approval, the pressure would have been unbearable. I might have felt forced to follow the crowd and purchase those overpriced technology stocks simply to protect my reputation and silence the criticism. But I did not care what the television hosts or reporters said. I understood that a business without reliable cash flow is nothing more than a mathematical illusion. I remained in Omaha, held on to my capital, and calmly allowed the rest of the world to laugh at me. Then something inevitable occurred. Within 2 years, the technology bubble exploded. Trillions of dollars disappeared almost instantly. Many of the individuals who once mocked my caution lost everything they had built. Their homes vanished, their relationships collapsed, and their professional reputations were destroyed. Meanwhile, I remained standing, and Berkshire Hathaway continued to grow stronger. The reason for that survival was simple. I had been following a completely different set of rules. I was guided by the internal scorecard rather than the external one. Once you truly stop caring about the applause of the crowd, an extraordinary transformation occurs in your thinking. Society suddenly loses its power to manipulate your behavior. You stop purchasing items you never truly needed in the first place. You stop worrying about where you rank in some artificial social ladder. Your mind becomes calm, focused, and extremely clear. Competitors who rely on trends and popularity begin to fear the discipline that you possess. Here is the task associated with habit number 5. Tonight, when you lie down to sleep, perform a brutally honest evaluation of your life. Look at the vehicle parked outside your home. Open your closet and examine the expensive clothing hanging inside. Think carefully about the career path you are currently pursuing. Then ask yourself a challenging question. If you were the final person left on earth and there was nobody remaining to impress, would you still desire those things? If the answer inside your mind is no, then you are living according to an illusion. You are wasting your most valuable resources, your time and your capital, just to maintain an image that does not truly matter. You must eliminate the external scorecard immediately. Stop performing for spectators and start building a life that genuinely serves your own goals. Earlier we discussed the storm and the termites. We talked about the concept of the two, hard pile, the habit of reading hundreds of pages, the discipline of sitting in an empty room with your thoughts, the daily respect for capital, and the evening evaluation of your internal scorecard. When you examine these 5 habits closely, you will notice something very interesting. None of them require extraordinary intelligence. None of them demand that you come from a wealthy family. None of them require secret connections or degrees from prestigious universities. what they demand is relentless discipline. They require the mental strength to tolerate boredom while everyone else constantly searches for stimulation. I have lived for more than 90 years, and during that time I have observed thousands of individuals attempt to achieve financial success. Many brilliant, energetic, and highly educated people have failed dramatically. At the same time, countless ordinary individuals with calm personalities have quietly built enormous generational wealth. The difference between those two groups rarely comes from one heroic decision. Instead, it comes from the steady accumulation of countless small choices made day after day. Modern society is fascinated by the fantasy of the massive breakthrough. People are always waiting for the perfect opportunity. They wait for a huge stock market crash before they decide to invest. They wait for a brilliant startup idea before they begin building a business. They wait for a wealthy mentor to suddenly appear and offer them a shortcut to success. While they sit there waiting for the hurricane, time continues to pass. Inflation slowly erodes the value of their savings. Their ability to concentrate is destroyed by the constant noise coming from their phones and digital devices. Complexity confuses them, and the pressure of the external scorecard blinds them. Without realizing it, they are losing the game simply because they refuse to play the long game. Do not follow the behavior of the crowd. Instead, become the designer of your own foundation. Accept the quiet boredom that comes with consistency. When you wake up tomorrow morning, do not attempt to transform your entire life in a single day, because that strategy almost always leads to failure. Do not begin by trying to read 500 pages immediately. Start with something small. Place one complicated problem into the hard pile. Sit quietly in an empty room for 10 minutes without touching your phone. Skip the expensive luxury coffee and invest that $5 into something that compounds over time. Do it once today. Then repeat it tomorrow. Continue again the following day. Allow the termites of positive compounding to begin their slow but unstoppable work. Let them operate quietly 24 hours a day, year after year, decade after decade. Eventually, the force of compounding will become so powerful that it transforms your entire life. Those small habits will create such a strong gravitational pull that wealth and independence will naturally begin moving toward you. The pursuit of wealth is not a short race designed for the smartest individual in the room. It is a long endurance journey won by the person who possesses the greatest discipline. Stop hoping for magical lottery tickets. Stop waiting for one gigantic move that will instantly change everything. Take responsibility for the tiny daily actions that shape your future. That is the real secret. Thank you for watching.